Hello. Today we are going to start what will likely be a multi-part series. This video will be probably a couple of weeks in the making, but today I want to talk to you about my latest venture. It is the upcycling of old vintage quilts. So I decided several months ago that I was going to reopen my Etsy shop, which I had shut down for several months, and I was going to just completely rethink it. I spent a couple of months making adorable bags. I made backpacks and tote bags and purses and cosmetic bags and zip bags. I made a whole kids line, and it did go live, and that Etsy shop is open now. I'm happy to say it's doing pretty well. One of the things that I decided to add to that Etsy shop was something I had never done before. I purchased a vintage quilt that is probably 40 years old and had been in someone's closet for 15 or 20 of those years. So it wasn't being used, and I bought it. I brought it back to life. I upcycled it. I made it into things that people are now enjoying and loving, and I had great success with doing this. So that's just one of the things that are on my Etsy shop, but they are the thing that's selling on my Etsy shop. So I thought that before I start the second quilt that I am going to be upcycling, I've actually already started it, I would bring you along to show you a little bit about what that process looks like. So for this first quilt that I bought, and I am putting a picture of it on the screen because it obviously does not exist anymore. A little bit more about the first quilt that I used. It was a beautiful quilt, and I am not a quilter. I do make a lot of quilted items. In fact, almost everything that I make is a quilted item, but I don't make quilts. And I do not know what the name of this quilt pattern was, but it was a beautiful quilt. It was not in great condition. It was old, and it did have, I would say I lost about 30% of that blanket, that quilt, to holes, parts of it that were stained or parts of it that couldn't be used. And when I did that quilt, I didn't have a plan. I just laid it out on my cutting table and thought, well, I'm going to make a tote bag out of this. And I cut it out. Some of the squares I cut out and pieced together to make some really lovely items. And some of those items have already sold, so I can only show you a picture of them. I do have a few of them left, and they are actually right here behind me. So these are some of those bags. These are the only ones I have left out of 10 bags that I made. And you can see that they are all very unique, very different. Some of them, I was able to keep entire areas of the quilt intact, where I could just sew some panels together, maybe add some parts of the outside for the base. And then I added my own, in most cases, I added my own cotton webbing straps and some, just assorted linings that are actually also very pretty. Both of these medium tote bags were made, here's the lining on that one. Both of these were made by simply using areas of the quilt and not having to really re-sew anything. But it made every single bag unique, has its own look. And then there were several things that I made where I actually put the pieces, the little pinwheel squares of the bag, I sewed them together to make an item that is only the colored quilted parts and none of the background, which was this cream color. So this is a little boxy bag that I made, and this is a cute little wallet that I made where this was completely made with scraps. And all I did was piece some of the scraps together, and then the inside has two little pockets because it is a wallet. And of all the things that I made with this quilt, these are the only ones that are left. But there might be someone out there that's interested in doing this who may not have to learn from my mistakes, and I would show you exactly how I did it. I learned some lessons by the first quilt. Hopefully the second quilt will be even more productive because I definitely changed the way that I did it a little bit. And maybe if you're interested in upcycling an old quilt or even a newer quilt, that my mistakes and my experience will help you to do that. So as I get ready to start the second quilt, and I only have 4 bags left of the first quilt and a tiny little bag with scraps in it, I thought that it might be helpful for someone out there who's interested in doing this to see how I did it. I am not telling you that I am an expert. I've done one of them. However, it was highly successful, and I do think there are a few things I'm going to do differently. I've already begun to do differently with the second quilt that maybe someone would like to see how I did it. The quilt has already been purchased. Both of these quilts were bought on Facebook Marketplace. This first one was someone who had had it in a closet for many, many years and had not used it, and it was many years older than that. I would imagine, although I don't know, that this quilt was a little bit older than the one that I have now. The second quilt that I've purchased is a beautiful quilt. It is a double ring wedding blanket, and it is the kind of quilt I was looking for when I bought the first one. And it is in pristine condition. It's also several years old. The person that I bought it from bought it at an estate sale and was told that it was at least 30 years old. It is, clearly it's vintage. It is hand quilted, and it is a king size. So I think in many respects, this quilt is going to probably produce much more, many more bags. I'm not sure. We'll see when it's all said and done. So the first thing that I did when I got this quilt home is I put it in the washer, and I washed it the first time I washed it on a gentle cycle because I was afraid of hurting it. And I've heard of people putting them in their bathtub and washing them, but I felt like this one was in good enough repair that it wasn't going to hurt it for me to wash it. And I washed it a second time with a little faster spin to it. I did put it in the dryer for maybe 20 minutes just to get the major moisture out of it. And then I laid it out to line dry the rest of the way. After I had finished that cleaning process, I inspected it really closely. I was looking for any part of it that needed to be possibly restitched. And there were only a few, and possibly an area that I wouldn't want to use because of a stain or something that I couldn't get rid of. And there were none in this quilt. The second quilt, which I'm calling the double ring quilt, has much more white, hand quilted white background. So I was a little pickier about the pieces that I chose. Instead of just opening up the quilt and deciding, oh, I'm going to make a large tote out of this square and this square, I actually created some patterns, which I'll show you in a second, and I laid out the entire quilt, deciding what parts would be used for which pieces. And I'll show you that. So what I did was I made some templates. I knew that there were 4 bags that I was going to use the quilt for primarily. And so I just printed out I just cut out some cardboard pieces that I could just lay on the quilt and cut out front, back for however many of that item I decided I was going to make. This was the cutout for the medium tote bag that you'll see in just a second. This is the cutout for the boxy bag, the little makeup bag like this that I used to cut out. And then this is the template that I used for the zip pouches, which also come with a base. So I was able to do a little bit of fussy cutting to get the absolute area of the quilt that I wanted to use. And this is what I have cut out of it so far. These are enough of these. These are the large tote to make 3 of them. I cut out this size enough to make 4 of the medium tote, which is this tote. It's a little bigger than this tote. This is what the pieces look like for the zip pouch, and there are enough to make 2 of these, and they each have a base that'll go along the bottom. And then this is what the pieces, and they all look different, every piece is different, but this is one of the pieces for the 2 boxy bags that I'm going to make. This is all I have cut out right now. I have a large Ziploc bag full of small scraps where I cut off the scalloped edge. And then I have a larger bag with the rest of the quilt. There are probably pieces in there big enough to maybe make a tote bag this size or a little bit smaller. And I will go back and I will use them. I may have to patch pieces together, but I will be using the entire quilt. So this adds up to 11 bags that I've cut out so far. And probably there's another 6 or 7 in that bag full of scraps. So my next step is going to be looking at linings. So now that I have the initial pieces that I'm going to make into bags, I have gone back and kind of gotten some of the extra things I'll need. I've found the zippers. I have decided on some webbing, cotton webbing for the straps. I will also be using the lining fabric for some of the straps too on these bags. So what I need to do today, and this is what I'm getting ready to begin doing, is I need to cut out my lining for each bag. So pick the color and pattern that's going to match each individual bag for the lining, because it will also be the straps in most of these, and it will be the inside pocket. The linings that I have are absolutely beautiful. I do have a few other ones that I might pick from, but I think that for these bags, one of these linings will work for every single one of them. So we're going to cut that out next, and then after those are cut out for each one of these 11 bags, I will be beginning by making 2 of those medium tote bags and trying to get them completely done. My hope is that I have all of these bags made in the next 3 or 4 days. Now it's the next day, and I spent a few hours yesterday and a little bit more than a half an hour today actually cutting up every one of the bags I'm going to make out of this quilt. And that includes the quilt itself. It includes the lining, the zippers in some cases, the straps, the interfacing. Everything is cut for all 11 bags. So my plan is that now I'll be able to come in here and do it like an assembly line, spend each session doing one group of the bags. Let me show you what I've cut out for each one of them. This first row that you can't really see very well up here are the medium tote bags. There's 4 of them. This row is the large tote bags. There are 3 of them. The next row down here on the top are the zip pouches. There's 2 of them. And over here are the boxy bags, and there are 2 of them. And what I've cut out for each one of them is this. I've cut out the interfacing, which I'll be putting on the lining. I've cut out the straps. In some cases, they're going to be made of the lining fabric, and so I've cut them out. But some of them I'm just going to use these cotton webbing. This is the interfacing for the inside pocket. This is the pocket. This is the lining. And then these are the 2 outer pieces, which I've matched to put together both pieces, the front and back, in a way that I think will be really cute. And that is for the medium tote bag. But here's an example of one of the other types of bags. This is a zip pouch, and this is the zipper pull. These are the zip ends. This is the lining. This is the zipper. This is the interfacing, which will be attached to the lining, which just gives the bag a little bit of stability, allows it to stand up on its own. And then here's the front and the back of the bag itself. And so, because this is all cut out for each one of the bags, I think that the actual sewing of them is not going to take as long as it would have. Now, those could be famous last words. But now we're getting ready to start. We're going to actually make the medium totes. And I will come back in a few minutes and tell you how we're doing. All right, I'm going to do a little update this morning where I'm at with the upcycling of this beautiful vintage double wedding ring quilt. So far, I have completed these 5 bags, 2 of the large totes, 2 of the medium totes, and 1 cute little makeup bag or zip pouch. And this is just a snapshot because they are all different if you flip them over to look at the back. And what I'm working on today is a boxy bag. And so when I say boxy bag, this is the boxy bag that I made out of my last quilt. I actually made several. Well, I think I made 3. And, but I didn't make it this way. This is going to be a whole new way to do it, making a pattern, cutting it out. This is the parts of it. I originally was going to make it a different way, so I had to sew the 2 pieces together. And we'll see if this is an easier way. I'll tell you why I switched. The other way that I made the bags like this, when you go to do these corners, you actually put a French seam inside, and it's very bulky. So I was trying to avoid that. We'll see if this way is any better. The difference is I have to put some binding in there on the inside of it that I don't usually do when I make my other bags. I'm not sure exactly what size it's going to come out to be. Right now, this is 14 inches this way, 18 inches this way, and these are the bags that I've made prior, and not all of these were out of quilts, obviously, but I think that it's going to be this size. This is my large boxy bag, and it actually may be between this size and this size. This is my medium. This is my small, and this is really an extra small, but I call them both small. So it's a little experiment. We'll see how it goes. Because I am showing you how I upcycled the quilt, I wanted to catch you up on where I'm at right now. Here is the finished boxy bag using the pattern that looked like this. And it was a lot of work because that is a tremendous amount of layers in there. But she turned out really cute. And the lining is also really cute. Just these blue polka dots. I don't think I'm gonna make another boxy bag unless someone asks for it out of this quilt. But this one's really cute. So now it is maybe a week later, and I have been sewing like crazy. This is what I have so far from the double ring vintage quilt. I have 2 of the large quilts up there on top. I have 4 of the medium quilts. And then I have 1 little zip pouch and 1 little boxy bag. We're getting there. I've got 3 more to make today, and then I'll be ready to post them. Now it has been about 10 days since we last spoke, and it took me about 5 or 6 days to finish with the first round of bags that I made out of the double ring quilt. And I ended up, right now I have 10 bags made that I'm going to show you, and then we'll talk about what I have left over. I did do some pretty fast sewing to get these 10 bags made in that time, but I think they turned out really cute, and they are all listed already on my Etsy page. I'll put the link in the description. But I ended up with, after really much better planning than I did with the first quilt that I made, I ended up getting 6 bags, tote bags out of it. And it includes 2 large tote bags. This is one of them. And it has, the sleeves are made from the lining fabric. That's one side. There's the other side. That's the cool thing. Every one of them's different from the others. And then this lining fabric, or this strap fabric, is also the lining fabric. And it's a really good size large tote too. And this is the other large tote. There's the front of it. There's the back of it. And it has the yellow gingham straps. There's the inside of it. It's got a nice big pocket in there. I like that you can see what the quilt itself looked like because we have a pretty big area here. That's the 2 large. I made 4 medium totes, and this is the one of them. 2 of them have the cotton webbing straps. There's the front, there's the back, and this one has beautiful yellow and pink feathery flower lining with a great big pocket in there. That's one of the mediums. Here's the other quilt that was made with the cotton webbing straps. There's one side, there's the other side, and it has this really cute blue lining with little tiny white polka dots. And then the other 2 medium totes I made with, the straps are made with the same fabric as the lining. This is one of those. It has pink lining and straps. There's one side. There's the other side. These are all boxed 4 inches. There's the inside with a pretty lining and a great big pocket. And then the final medium tote, this is my favorite, is this blue one. There's one side of it. There's the other side of it. This adorable blue, white and blue, feathery, beautiful lining. And then there's the lining, and there's the great big pocket that comes in it as well. So you can see that every one of them's different. They're even different one side to the next. They're all originals. And then the next thing I made was a boxy bag. I only made one of these. The challenge with boxy bags is that they are bulky. And when you go to finish these 4 sides of it, kind of hard for you to see it because it's made of a quilt. it's a lot of bulk a lot of bulk in there trying to make that. So it was a little bit of a challenge, but he turned out really cute, and that's his, he's got the same blue lining with a little white polka dots. And he is also 4-inch boxed. He's a great cosmetic bag, toiletries bag. Diapers will fit in there with some wipes. I'm working on maybe coming up with a little diaper bag version of this that has a handle, has an opening for the wipes. And then I made 2 zip pouches. And that's one side. That's the other side. And they also are boxed 4 inches across the bottom. And also same lining. It does have a little pocket inside. The blue with the little white polka dots. And then I made another zip pouch that is very similar to that one. But this one has, so that's one side. There's the other side. But it has a blue bottom, which I just think is adorable. And then it has the blue lining inside. And so I had plans for the next bag to be another boxy bag. But instead of going with the boxy bag, which is, again, what this one is, I don't know if I showed you both sides, I decided to make it something else. And I made it into a purse. What that meant was it was already cut and it wasn't a big enough piece. So I had to piece some pieces together to make this purse. There's one side. Oh, get both straps. There's the other side. And the parts that I pieced together, so all of the other bags are just parts of the quilt just as they were on the quilt. But this one's actually been pieced together. I had to add a panel across the top on both sides. So that's the one side. Here's the panel that I added to the other side with just part of one of those rings on it. And then I had to add a little panel to the bottom, which were mostly just white, to make the boxed bottom. It does have the cute blue and white feathery straps and lining. And then the lining, of course, has a nice big pocket in it. It's a nice big durable zipper. And I almost kept it for myself. I still might, but right now it's on the Etsy shop. And this is definitely my favorite thing that I made so far out of that bag. After making those 10 bags, this is how much of the double ring quilt that I have left. This is a pretty good pile of fabric. This bottom piece is all one piece. I tried to keep as much of it intact as I could. So that is my big pile of leftovers. And then this is of my little bag of scraps, which will also easily be pieced together to make adorable bags. My plans for that fabric is to make some more bags. There may be a few small totes. There may be another purse. There will definitely be some more zip pouches, maybe a boxy bag, and maybe a wallet. I'll show you the wallet from my previous collection. This is a little wallet or a little coin case, whatever you want to call it. And it actually has 2 pockets in it for you to put all your credit cards and some cash in, whatever you'd want to put in there. That was one side of it, and that was the other. This is still available on my Etsy shop. So the wallet will be similar to that. So far, I have one that is cut out, and it is cut out to be a large, look how pretty that is, to be a large tote. I may or may not make it a large tote. My thinking is that I will have probably another 7 bags out of all of these scraps. And that would mean that I end up with maybe 18 bags out of this quilt. It was a king size quilt and it was in pristine condition. I didn't find I didn't find any part of it I couldn't use. I only found 2 or 3 places that needed just a few stitches in them. And the first quilt, the pinwheel quilt that I made, I got 10 bags out of. And I lost about 30% of that quilt, and I know I mentioned this earlier, because of stains and holes in that quilt that couldn't be fixed and I couldn't use them. This quilt, because I'm using the entire quilt, and it was king size, like I said, I think maybe 18 bags. I will update you when it's all said and done. But that is the process that I went through to turn this vintage double wedding ring quilt into beautiful bags that can still be loved and cherished by someone. All of those hand quilted hours that someone spent on that quilt are now going to get to be appreciated by a whole new group of people. My plan moving forward is only once a month will I get a quilt and spend about a week on repurposing it. And I have limited space for keeping the things that I'm making, so I'll probably wait until some of this inventory is gone before I do another one. It might be a month, we'll see. But I'm very excited about seeing what everyone thinks about these bags, and I'm really excited about this process. I'm enjoying it, and I hope that maybe something that I did will help you if you're interested in doing any of that. Until next time, I'll see you later.